Hi there, and good morning or good evening, whatever it is. It's morning here in Norway because I am actually in Norway. I live in Norway. Just wanted to point that out because for some reason, a lot of people think that I live in Sweden, but I don't. I'm Norwegian, which means that I live in Norway. So, why is it that people from people from North America, especially, seem to think that Norwegians live in Sweden because that's actually a thing. And it's been like that since forever, almost. Why is that? And why is it that people assume that what happens in Sweden must also happen in Norway, that it's the same thing, the same country? I'll get into that if I remember. If not, then please remind me. I'll just sorry. I'll just say hello to the good people here in the chat. Now you have to be a subscriber to join the chat. That way we. It seems like most trolls they don't want to subscribe, so it keeps them out of the chat. So please remember that you have to subscribe in order to be in the chat to these live streams. Now, I do not have the answer to why so many people from across the Atlantic think that Norwegians are Swedish. There is this joke, of course, that Norway is the capital of Sweden, but actually, no, Norway is not. Norway is a separate country. But let me get into the main topic of this live stream. Sweden is having problems. It's been going on for a long time, several years. Gang-related violence, shootings, drugs, all sorts of horrible crime activity, and even they're even using grenades, explosives, and so on. So they also have no-go zones. There was a very famous um, uh, news article, or it was a TV. Some Norwegian journalists went there to one of the no-go zones, and they were, well, it's on camera. They were threatened by the people there. We do not have the same problems in Norway. By that I mean we have gang-related violence in Norway. We have all sorts of crime in Norway, of course, sadly, but not as much. You can't even compare it because it's Sweden. It's so much more in Sweden, and now there are more people living in Sweden than in Norway. But even if you see it in proportion to the people who live in the country, still in Sweden it's much worse. Now, why is that? The obvious answer is that it has to do with immigration from North Africa and the Middle East. And having said that, I do not have any reason to say that this is something that is problematic with people from those parts of the world in general. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that those gangs and that violence happens among people with an immigrant background from predominantly Muslim countries. That's a fact, and if I'm mistaken on that one, I would like to see some numbers. But I do not think anyone can find any numbers, any statistics to prove that I was wrong on what I said there. So the immigration to Sweden has been a lot more liberal than immigration to Norway. Norway is not okay. So let me just kill one of the myths here concerning Norway, because I see it not all the time, but I see it quite a lot in the comments to my videos. And it's the idea that Norway is being invaded by young men in fighting age from those parts of the world that I mentioned just now. No, that is not true. If you look at the numbers, you can't really say that. That's not true when it comes to Norway. Do we have problems with immigration in Norway? Yes. But actually, if you look at the same numbers, not the same numbers, but if you look at the numbers concerning Norway, immigration is actually needed in some parts of Norway. Why is that? A lot of people will, I unsubscribe. He can't say that because that's not what I'm thinking and feeling, so I need to unsubscribe. Okay, unsubscribe. What I'm saying here is that if you look at Norway, it is a country predominantly rural. In the villages, in lack of a better word, small towns around Norway, well, small towns is actually a better word, people typically working in the health sector, teachers, and well, all sorts of people who can and are willing to work, they are needed there. And it is being said that the tragic war in the Ukraine with very often well-educated women fleeing and going to places like Norway is don't get me wrong here, is a good thing for those counties, the rural countries in Norway, because suddenly they got some people there who can work as teachers, English teachers maybe, and in the health sector and so on, which was needed because rural Norway is dying. And it's a policy that most people here, I think, agree on, is that we want those little towns around the country to exist. So what I'm trying to explain here is that that's a different kind of immigration, and it is needed in countries like Norway. There's also a very and then there's the other kind of immigration, people coming here for the benefits. They will live in the cities, and they will not work, and they will be a burden on society. Now, the latter group there, you'll find a lot of those people in Sweden, sadly. So, also in Sweden, there has been the public debate in Sweden has for a very long time, for many years now, been very different from the public debate in Norway. Even though, especially people on, I would say, what used to be called the right, they will bitch and moan about how it's not, you can't say that immigration is bad because then they'll call you a racist. Well, I have seen nothing. But if you go back 10 years or so, it's been a continuous argument in the public sphere where people are arguing that immigration is problematic. So I do not think it's true that people can't say that, because they are saying that all of the time. Is immigration problematic? As I just explained, yes, it can be. But as I just said, also, if you get, for instance, these women from fleeing from the Ukraine, settling in rural Norway, working there, is that a bad thing? No. Is it a good thing? Well, it is. Well, not for those people fleeing, of course, but you get what I'm trying to say here. So now someone's saying here, come to Detroit or Flint. I promise you will not like it at all. I guess not. I don't know. I haven't been there, but yeah, okay. I'll get to the chat after I finish my argument here. And it is easier to see the super chats, just so you know. I understand that lots of people are struggling financially, so please don't give me a super chat if you would rather, if it's more sensible to save that money or something like that. I will do my best here to look at the chat. Just give me a couple of minutes here. Now, the public debate. So, in Norway, we have had a heated debate, but concerning immigration, I guess that's tends to be heated. You have people shouting. You have people shouting racist, but you don't really have people. It's people still say what they want, okay, and they write what they want in the newspapers and so on. There's a limit there, of course. You can't expect to be listened to if you use racial slurs and such things, I guess, But in Sweden, and I have to say that since I am not Swedish, I am not an expert on this. And if there is something here that you people who are in Sweden, if there's something here that I say wrong or if that I'm mistaken on, please correct me. But my impression is that the public debate in Sweden has, for many, many years, been controlled by mainstream media, and people who disagreed were just labeled racists, and they were not even allowed in the public debate. So, and this is why I believe in freedom of speech. And by the way, to those morons who write some nasty stuff in the comments to my videos, and then when I say you can't expect to be here, not be, if you do that, then you don't. I thought you believed in freedom of speech. Well, freedom of speech is that you are allowed to start your own channel and and spew out your moronic nonsense there. That's freedom of speech. Okay, but back to Sweden. So when you have a public debate controlled by mainstream media, controlled by politicians from a certain fraction of the spectrum, if you will, all the people who disagree, they get a little bit upset because they are not heard. So what tends to happen is that they group into more, let's say, more extreme fractions. So I would say that the Swedish party now, I can't remember the name. It was just there's a Swedish party. I think it's the biggest or second biggest now. They are much more anti-immigration than the most anti-immigration big political party in Norway. It's gone now. It's gone. Someone will remind me. Yes, Sweden Democrats. Yeah, isn't that what they're called? Yes. Okay. Yeah, I would say that they also, with their roots in forgive me if I'm mistaken, it's a long time ago that they had some roots and connections to neo-Nazi people. Maybe that shouldn't be held against them. you know. But my point here is that when you have these smug politicians who are steering directly towards the edge of the cliff, like the mainstream political parties in Sweden has been doing for a long time, then you will have more, in lack of a better word, extreme political parties popping up and becoming very, very large. On the contrary, in Norway, we have had a more open debate, I would say. Not as open as I would have wanted, but more open and diverse than in Sweden, I would say. So while in Sweden the politicians were just doing the politically correct and silencing the politically incorrect, doing this with my fingers, quote unquote. Oh, YJ Overlander says freedom of speech also comes with freedom of the channel owner to send you packing. Yeah, absolutely. You should see some of the comments that get deleted here. Oh, well, it's good that you don't see them. Yeah, they disagreement is okay, but I mean some people are quite something. But anyway, back to Sweden. While this was going on, these gangs were allowed to establish. The no-go zones were allowed to establish themselves like I know that in Malmö it's quite bad. That's in south of Sweden, um, and it's now Malmö is truly in. Will Thompson, conversation is dying, you say. Well, I'm sorry. I'm just human. You can leave. I won't waste your precious time. Goodbye. Yeah, in Malmö. So now it's sort of, can I say too late? Well, it's never too late, but when you have things like this happening for a long time, it kind of becomes part of the fabric of society. And in Sweden, it is like that now. So this is why I think Sweden and Norway is now two very different countries. Not everything is great in Norway, and not everything is bad in Sweden. I will say that I love Sweden and I live very close to the border. I am very often in Sweden. It's a beautiful country. I view us Norwegians and Swedish. I think we're pretty much the same culture. I have several Swedish friends, and I have nothing but good things to say about Sweden. I might move to Sweden actually, but there is also this problem. There is also this problem here. And I don't have the solution. I won't pretend to have the solution. Lots of people, they think that, well, I know what you should do. That's easy to say, especially when you sit over in another continent. Very easy to say. But I know that they can't just let these gangs rule. They must strike down, and I'm talking about the police, they must get rid of them. But I think it will take many years before they do. So I'm going to get to the chat now and reply to your comments. Okay, and the ban hammer. I don't have a physical hammer here, but so. Well, you see, you're claiming that I missed the context. Yeah, well, maybe you should try better to think about what you're writing here, because I cannot physically look at the chat, which is moving quite fast, by the way, and see all the comments while I talk to the camera. It's not as easy as it looks, you see? So, Mike is asking, does Norway have any violent criminal gangs? Yes, we do. Actually, where I grew up in between two of the most notorious gangs, geographically speaking. We're talking mafia here. It was really bad. So yes, and yeah. Let's see here. Let's see here. Okay, so please try to write comments in a sense so that I can understand what it says. I'll do my best here. So, Joachim, excuse me if I pronounced incorrectly there, is saying, I heard Sweden was the country with more islands or the most islands in the world. I don't know. I thought, no, I don't know. I need to find out. But there certainly are lots of islands, both west and, well, mostly east of Sweden. Nordic Hunt says Norwegians are just Swedes who got lost in the mountains. Yeah, the Danish, they call us mountain apes. Yeah. Wolf of Odin says Nordic cousins. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, Will is a little bit upset here. Sorry about Will. Sorry about that, Will. Nordic Hunt says Bjorn is a sensitive soul. Are you being ironic? I mean, if you mean that, I don't know what to say to you. You don't know much. When are you Norwegians going to take Bohuslän back? Yes, well, we need to take Bohuslän and Härjedalen back. Absolutely, it's Norwegian. And no, just kidding, of course. But yeah, those areas used to be Norwegian. So yeah, that's I know, it's a bit of a joke there. Okay, sometimes you see it's difficult for me to know if the comment is directed at me or not. But someone here says you are being manipulated, unfortunately. If you're talking about me, no, I am not being manipulated. That's not true. Okay. So I'll just scroll down. World Economic Forum shenanigans going on over there. Well, they certainly have, people from the Nordic countries, they are right there now, and they are among the people there. So they will be taking their orders back, so to speak, and it will influence the policies here, sadly. Yeah, well, that's interesting. Number of islands. compared to islands in Indonesia. I haven't looked into that. You're walking on eggshells. YouTube is manipulating you in a way. It is wonderful how, no disrespect to you, but it's wonderful that the in and outs of being a YouTuber. That's wonderful. Yeah. And how is it that we went from trying to form arguments to instead making claims about someone you see on a YouTube channel, his or her personality, physical appearance, and so on? How is that helpful? First of all, why do anyone think that I would care? I don't get it. What's wrong with trying to form an intelligent argument? I mean, we go to school to learn how to do that, So, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so Golden Apple is asking, is it true Norway is about to adopt a CBDC? It's difficult to answer. I think it will very soon be an option. And I think that goes for most countries. And here's what I think will happen. Now we're changing subject a little bit, but CBDC, it's a central bank digital currency. And I have made a video on my main channel about this, which I suggest you look into. I will try to remember to put that at the end screen of this live stream. So I think that CBDC will not be forced upon people, to begin with at least. It will just be more convenient. Now, most people are addicted to their idiot machine now. Idiot machine is what I have started to call a smartphone. I don't have a smartphone, and I think it's not healthy. But almost everyone has a smartphone. I'm not calling you an idiot because you have a smartphone. I know that some people are required to have a smartphone because of work and so on. But you know what I mean. There will be an app on the smartphone which will have the CBDC technology incorporated in everything you do. It will be convenient. That's how it will start. Sorry. Sometimes the mustache, I hear in the mustache twists and go up in the nose. That's yeah, little bit more information than you need to know there. Yeah, so people will just find it very convenient, and that's how it will start. And more people will start using CBDC through their smartphone. And when very few people are still using other means of payment, it will just become very difficult to use anything else, anything other than CBDC. That's how I think it will be. I will refuse. Well, for Odin, yes, gold and silver, absolutely. But you can only trade with other people who, yeah, we need an alternative. But I don't think most people will not accept that as payment. Most businesses will not accept that as payment. David, CBDC is a central bank digital currency. So, Yeah, well, for Odin, exactly. You need a tight network of like minds. So alternative means of payment, like and barter, will be. I think it will involve things um, like physical goods, like food, uh, like use secondhand clothes, maybe, and services. Like if you need someone to fix your car, maybe things like that. Yeah, and it's going to be difficult because our income, if I mean the income will now we're changing the subject here, but that's okay. It's going to be difficult to stand outside of the CBDC system when your, for instance, employer or your customer uh, don't want to pay with anything else. Okay, but I'm not actually prepared now today to do a live stream about CBDC. So I'll just leave it there. Yeah. Um, okay. Sorry. Just had to clean up a little bit. Now, um, what is happening in Sweden could easily happen in Norway or any other country. It only takes one political decision, one one political decision with a majority uh, to make changes so that the same happens here. For instance, you could say that now we're going to have, I don't know, 50,000 immigrants from certain countries come to Norway every year. That would rapidly change Norway so that it would be, you wouldn't recognize it in a few years. I have always been a supporter of helping people who need help. I think that, for instance, we should take in kids who need medical assistance and you can't get that in the country where they are. We should help proper refugees, preferably in areas closer to where they came from. Um, we should just apply some common sense and be kind. But there is nothing kind about opening the borders to people who come here for the benefits. That's just cruel, especially to the people who are already here, especially to women. I won't get further into that. Um, and yeah, as someone said here, conversation is dying. That's all I had to. It's beautiful how people point out all your failures and all your uh, you know, that you're being a human being. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. Yes, well, Norway is careful, you know. That's why we are not in that situation. Um, and most immigrants, if you look at the numbers, most immigrants here are English and from Eastern European countries, and they are here to work. They come here to work because workers are needed here. That's just how it is. Okay. Yeah, well, Sweden, it needs to be said, Sweden has changed their policies lately. At least that's what they're saying. So we might see a change there, but who knows? Who knows? And I think maybe I want to say it's too late, but I don't know. You can't stop trying, you know. So, yeah. Okay, I will end the live stream with that. And thank you for having the patience to listening to me for half an hour. That's very kind of you. And if you're not already a subscriber to this channel, please consider subscribing. Have a wonderful day.